Hey, I've had multiple conversations with multiple lenders the last couple weeks, and it all is around a franchise that I started with a friend of mine, and we are going to open up 6 locations in the next probably 3 years. And so you need flexibility to do that, and flexibility for us because we just don't have endless supplies of money that we just go dig up in the backyard. We need to make sure we're liquid enough as we build out a lot of these, and until they start cash flowing to pay for future locations. So what that means is we had a lot of conversations with some different banks, from big lenders to local banks that are local to this small town that I live in, and other ones were some from past relationships with past bankers who have helped us as we got the salon business started. So let me start with the salon business. Well, let me start here. If you're getting into business and you just want everything to be easy and there to be no risk and there to be all reward, you probably should not be getting into business. I mean, I get into a business knowing that there is unknown. You get into it and you try to get as many answers as you can to try to cross off as many boxes on the checklist and the due diligence and all of that you can. But at the end of the day, entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs because they don't necessarily have the crystal ball that tells them what's going to happen in 6 months or 9 months or 12 months. But you do everything that you can do to prepare for what might happen. And for us, we are preparing for fast, rapid growth and then having liquidity if growth doesn't happen or there's some hiccups that happen along the way, which there will be, and that does happen. So anyway, in the salon business, we were thought we were good to go. We had the SBA was lending to us when I first started in Sola years ago. I think it was about 7 years ago. And SBA, we did it. We had 2 of them approved at the same time, and we figured that's how we were going to grow this thing. SBA all the way. Then competitors came in and they started to talk about how great the salon suite business was and how passive it was and how easy it was. And then pretty soon the SBA said, we're not going to loan money in that salon suite business anymore because it's too passive, and the SBA does not want to loan on super passive businesses. They want the owners involved. So competition was a downfall, and we lost SBA, and we had 10 more that needed to get opened up in that time. And we were at a loss. We did not know what was going to happen next. And so there we were, ready to sign leases, and we had no funding lined up. And these were really expensive projects that super expensive, 7-figure projects that we were going into, and we didn't have money that were growing, trees that grew money, and we weren't independently wealthy, and we needed those banks to help us fund it. So anyway, we went to one source and we got 2 loans with them, and then all of a sudden another bank opened up some lending for us that was a relationship through the franchisor, and then a third bank got involved, and then we had 2 banks that we built deep relationships with. We refinanced the 2 loans that we did with an intermediary lender that we needed to use at the time, and then we financed 10 locations with 2 banks that were strategic partners for us during that time, and millions of dollars in loans with them. Then after that, we decided to get into different businesses, and we went back to the well with these particular banks. And they're small banks. This is what's so interesting. They're small banks. One's in Kansas and the other one's somewhere else, but they're not like Wells Fargo or Chase or something like that. They're real small banks, but they have an entrepreneurial mindset. And so what we did is we went back to them and said, hey, we're starting some different franchises. Are you interested in lending to us? And so one, they saw our success with one of the franchises we had, so that was a plus. Then they wanted to dig into the franchise itself, and so they're starting to do that. And both of these banks came back to us with offers to lend to us. New concept, different markets than we'd been in before. And they're ready to do it. Now, were the terms completely like, hey, we'll give you 90% down and charge you no interest, or 10% down, give you a loan for 90% and not charge you any interest? No, the loans weren't that great, but they're loans, and they will work if we choose to do them. We're also have an opportunity to do SBA. And then we met with 2 banks locally in this small town that I live in, and it's a small town. But the banks here do things different than they do elsewhere. And so I started building relationships with banks in this town years ago. So when I needed to go in there, I knew the bankers. One of them I went to high school with, the president of the bank I went to high school with. Others, where I'm doing other real estate projects. I did a real estate project in this town, and now I went in and they know what's going on with that real estate project. There's a relationship that's built. So these banks are willing to loan off a relationship more than anything else, and we're actually probably going to get more favorable terms based on personal relationships that I have with banks that are local than I do with these other banks that are out there that I could use if I wanted to. So we have basically 5 banks that are willing to lend to us, and we get to choose which one we want to do. And the decision's not super easy, because it's not who's giving us the best terms today. It's who wants to grow with us. Because I said we have 6 of these things to open up in Denver in the next 3 years, and so we can't have a bank that wants us to put in, let's just call it $300,000 into an account that's safety for them to a CD, because that would just that would kill our liquidity. Think about that, doing that 300 times 6, that's a lot of money. And so we can't do that. We're not going to do that. But we have other banks that are willing to just help us out, and they're just going the extra mile, and they want to grow with us. And they're already looking out for location number 2 and 3. And so I'm excited about this. But when it comes, generic advice, this is from someone that's been in franchising, that has local bank relationships. Generic advice, and I told this to the bankers, if you have a choice to work with a local bank or that has no idea about your franchise, and these local banks told us, we are doing this based off a personal relationship with you, not necessarily the franchisor. Other ones are loaning based on the relationship they have with the franchisor. And there's a particular bank that we're looking at going with, and they've done a lot of loans with this particular franchise company, and it's so easy for them because they've seen the success over and over and over with all the loans that they've lent, and 100% success rate with all of them. So their personal relationship is with the franchisor. And 9 times out of 10, I will go that route because it's easy, it's fast, and it's proven. But when you have a personal relationship with a bank that is based on you, that may trump the relationship that you have with the local bank. So anyway, there's some thoughts on lending, but make sure, some just generic advice, get an equity line of credit, unsecured equity line of credit when you don't need it, so you can use it when you do need it. I see so many people out there just not getting that equity line unsecured. Get, if it's a $10,000 or $50,000 or $100,000, whatever it is, get that today. So when you do need it, or you do want to use it, you're able to, versus when you need it. Hope some of you found that helpful.